Let's get into some turnaround drawings. So what you will have after you've handed up submission 1 is you would have 2 characters. You're going to choose one of those characters to move forward with. So what we have here is a Photoshop document. I've done an A4 landscape image. That will mean that whatever drawings I do in here, I can put straight into my style guide, into my book, my PDF that I'm going to hand up. I have a character. This is the character that I'm going to make turnaround drawings of. What you will have is you'll have 2 different characters. They'll probably be black and white. They might be color, but typically they'd be black and white. And this first section, the first time we're going to do turnarounds, we're going to do it again and afterwards. But the first time we do turnarounds, we are interested in balancing our characters and trying to get the look of the character from all different angles. So the beauty of what you've done in the last little while is that you've made a model of this as well, so that should make it a lot easier as well, but I'm just going to go off this. Today we'll talk about balance, we'll talk about overlap, we'll talk about consistent features across the character lineup. Okay, so what we're going to do here, you can see already that I've got some overlap here. This leg is behind and this arm's behind, etc., etc. So what I'm going to do is, first I'm going to do a drawing which is going to even up this character. In other words, it's going to balance properly. So we're in Photoshop, as I said. I'm going to keep working in layers, alright? So you can see here, I'll just do original or something like that. No, I don't know. I'll write just whatever. Original. That's my original drawing. I will click on the top and I'll just do pose 1 or something like that. So I might not keep doing layers, but you can see that it's really important if you're working digitally like this. Of course, you can work on paper. If you're working digitally like this, it's important to use different layers because then you can move some things around. So the first thing I'm going to do is I always work really with a light color to start with, just so I feel a bit more confident about form and things like that. I'll just do fairly simple. It doesn't look too bad. What I'll do first is I'll just even up this character. I might do a front view. So basically this character is a triangle. Okay, so, and it is alright if this character changes a little bit. Okay, so you've already done this character as a sketch and you've already done this character as a model, so it might actually change on you, and that's fine. You've got 2 different directions that you've gone in, you've picked one, you've made a model of it, and you're okay. So I'm going to use my model as reference. I'm going to use my final drawing of my character as reference, and I'm going to, if I need to, use the visual research as reference as well. Now, if I don't know what something looks like, quite obviously I get some reference on it. Okay, so I could do something like that. I don't know whether his chin would be like that. Maybe something like that. Okay, I reckon a tooth each side. Alright, now arms. So that would be a reasonable looking character like that. He's got medals and things like that, but let's get our arms out here. How about we make the arms something like that? So you can already see we're taking a few liberties with this as well. So we don't need to follow everything absolutely exactly, but something like that maybe. Alright, so we could do something like that. So I've done this quite a lot of times. What you could do, as I said before, I'm just going to change the eraser down a little bit. What you could do, as I said, is you've got tons of reference. That's why we get it. You've got reference for your model, you've got reference for the other drawings that you've done. Okay, and you can keep going like that. I keep swapping this around and just feeling things out a little bit because I haven't drawn any turnarounds of this character before. Alright, so you could even do something like that. Now we're changing a few things about it, but we're just trying to get this one pose. Okay, so you can see here that it goes off the edge of the character. Alright, so we could do something even like that. Alright, it'd be nice to just follow that. So really this is just to show you what we could be doing here. That's as good as anything, just to show off what we're doing. So that's alright. That's alright for now anyway. Okay, so that could be our first one. Alrighty. Let's do the hat, because that is a part of this character. And that is our front view. Okay, now this cap is a little bit down. Alright, if it was just straight ahead, it would literally be a line if this was coming straight for us, but the cap is down a little bit. I might do another layer 2 here. I'll do pose 1 black, something like that, but you don't have to do that. Have all different layers, and I probably won't do that again, but let's have a look what we've got here. So something like that anyway. Alright, so you could spread your character out so that we can see what all the features look like. This character here is a little bit obscured, but it is quite a nice 3/4 view. So when we come to the 3/4 view, we could actually use this quite well. So this is our front view of the character. Alright, now as I said before, this is a black and white. Alright, this is a black and white version of the character, and the next time we do this turnaround we are experimenting with color. So they're very different reasons. Okay, we are experimenting with this character here because we're after form. Okay, we're after the look of this character. We're experimenting with the color because we have the form already, and we're going to do that after this. There's the hat, something like that anyway. Because once we've got the form, then we can start working out, okay, well, what sort of color should we do? What sort of edges should we do? Are the lines thick or thin, etc., etc. Okay, so that's a fairly reasonable looking turnaround. What we didn't do before, and I should probably drop those arms a little bit, is just his collar. He's a bit of a crazy character, this one, but it just means we drop those arms a little bit. So that's why I do the blue. So let's do this, something like that anyway. Okay, so you can see the blue is guiding us just to be helpful, and you can see if I've forgotten something there, it's okay to just add it. Alright, so something like that as our front view. Okay, so there is our front view. Okay, so what you can do is you can either do the bottom of your feet really perfectly flat, as though the camera is sitting right at the bottom, or you can do it slightly curved. Okay, so the first thing that I would say you would need to learn about this sort of stuff is learn about ellipses. Okay, so I'll go through that in a sec. Obviously, to be better as a character designer, you would go through and you'd learn more about all the drawing techniques. You would do tons of observational drawing, but really it's more about observation and understanding. The more you understand something, the better you'll be able to draw it. Of course, you can describe it using illustration. Okay, so let's have a look at this. So, for example, if you see something from the side, then it's like that. If you see something from the top, it's like that, say a can or something like that. If you see that can from the top and it's gradually, the camera is gradually getting to the side of it, you can see that that is looking at the top of a can, for example, from the side, and that is looking more so from the top. Same with your feet here. If you do the feet perfectly flat, it means that the camera's right on the ground. If you do some ellipses, it means that you're looking from slightly above, and that's just slightly above and on the top of your feet. So that is our basic front view. What we could do, and I'll go back to some blue again, just remember to swap layers. I could do just some of his details. He's got some medals. Okay, so the medals would be something like that. He's got a scar as well. Okay, he's also got a bite taken out of him. Okay, and the pants as well. So, you know, you could do all sorts. So let me just rub that out. You could do the scar there and the pants there, or the pants higher, or whatever. So you can see it's just changed slightly. Those arms could be smaller or larger or whatever, but just generally we've got what we're after there. Okay, so something like that. So I think that's a fairly reasonable view of that. Okay, so what I'll do is I will shift that character and I'll make that the start of a lineup, and then I'll start making some decisions based on how this character is going to turn around, knowing that here I've probably got a good 3/4 view as well, or at least information about a 3/4 view. Alright, so I'll stop this and I'll line things up a little bit, and then we'll talk about how we're actually going to push this character along the page and do some other poses of this character. Okay, so you can see that I've moved this page around a little bit. I've shifted this character here over to the left. I've got this character, my original drawing, at least somewhere on the page because that's reference. What might be nice as well is to just have your model or an image of your model just somewhere as well. And of course, if you have any other reference, what hats look like, or what clothing looks like, or collars or fins or whatever else, you'd have like little tiny images of that somewhere as well. So everything's has some reference there. So I've added another layer here called lines, and that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so what you would do is you would put lines across the page, just corresponding with anything that you need. Okay, so I need lines to line things up here. So at the bottom of the body, etc., etc., you know, you could do up the top. So basically you'd have lines between the top here and the bottom here. So I usually leave them in because they look good, as long as they're really, really light. Now they need to be really light to not distract from the actual drawing. So these are really, really light. So this is the beauty of having stuff in your own layer, okay? This is its own layer with 25% opacity, and I'm clicking once here, then I'm putting my finger on shift and I'm drawing across the page, which gives me this gives me perfectly straight lines. Okay, so I'm clicking and then I'm drawing. I'm clicking because if I don't click, sometimes I get this, okay, because it draws from where I was to where I am. So I click down once to start again, and if I put my finger on shift, then it does that. Okay, I could also click here and then just click the other side, and that actually joins the two. Alright, otherwise I'll just draw. So you can do whatever. So you can see here that, you know, so let's try the thumb here. You can see here that I have all the lines I need for reference. I could even, let's click here and we'll draw across. I could even have eyes there as well. Okay, so I think that's everything. Something like that. Yep. Okay, so what I'll do now is I will add another layer called Pose 2. Let's try that. And I'm going to use my blue, and I'll make sure this opacity is up. How are we going? Okay, so what I'm doing here, and save, keep saving. What I'll do here is I might do a 3/4 view, just based on this one here. Okay, now 3/4 views are quite difficult. They can be difficult because you've got to try and do things like overlap. Let me talk about that. So this is overlap. Overlap this thing here. That means this is in front of this. All right. Overlap just means you do something like that and something behind, and this looks like it's behind. You can also see that this is shaded. So sometimes a really good way of doing this is, so say there's leg. You can see that this is overlap. This leg is overlapping this. So this is first, this is second, this is third. So straight away we can tell that maybe 1 is in front of 2, which is in front of 3. Another nice thing to do is, as well as overlap, so you've got overlap here, as well as that, you've got overlap, you can do a little bit of shading, so you can shade something that's in the back. So you can see here, for instance, that my arm here, if it's 1, and the other arm at the back is 2, the arm at the front is lighter and the arm in the back is darker. Okay, so overlap is really good to think about. Alright, and shading is really nice. Now the shading just needs to be really subtle. Add it if you like, but it's really nice, okay, to throw things back behind. So you can use overlap, you can use shading, okay, and remember those ellipses, okay. You're looking at the top, you're looking sort of from the top, and you're gradually going down to looking from the side. Okay, so you can see here I've got some I've got overlap here, but I've got some ovals or ellipses here, and I've also got an ellipse here that you can see the front of. Okay, so the back of that would be that. So you can see that I'm looking at the bottom of this, and I'm looking at the top of this. So that means this foot has been lifted up and I'm seeing a little bit underneath, and this foot I'm looking at it from above. Okay, so overlap and ellipses and shading. Alright, let's go to pose 2. Let's try a 3/4 view. Alright, so I'm using some information from here, I'm using some information from here. So just like I've been showing you through the weeks, you're using the information you've done from the week before to inform whatever is the week after that. So we're doing the same here. Every little bit of information here is informing what you're doing next. So let's try a 3/4 view. Alright, these lines will help, and we can just give this a shot, okay? I might not do arms like this, we'll see. Alright, we're just trying to simplify this at the moment. Okay, so I think I've obviously made mine a lot thinner, but I think my my 3/4 view would be a similar sort of shape, okay? Alright, something like that. Now, this line obviously is where the bottom of the body goes. Let's have it looking this way. Now, if my eyes are this far away here, on a 3/4 view, and lots of people get stuck on this, my 3/4 view, the eyes are obviously close together because you're going around the side a bit. Now, some people also do this. They do some perspective where this eye is a little bigger and this eye is a little smaller. But generally, just do as much as you're comfortable with. Now, you can see here, we're going to start making decisions about what we're seeing here. So say I had a photo up here as well of my model. So there's my little model. I'd have, some other reference here of what hats look like. So just whatever we need, okay? And you would use all that. So there is my hat. There is my forehead. There is my chin. Okay, my arms, there's the collar, and my arms are there. So just the same as if this is wide and this is narrow, this arm here is on the side and the arm would move to there, which means that I'm thinking my side view, my arm would be in the middle, obviously. So if my arm is in the middle on the side view and my arm is in the edge on the front view, then on the 3/4 view it would be halfway between, wouldn't it? So this is what I mean. You're using the information that you've done to inform what's happening next. So that means my arm is here. That's why sometimes arms aren't shown on the 3/4 view. They just sort of put it off to the side here. But we're not going to do that. We're going to give this a shot. So think of all that information you've got there. You're trying overlap, you're trying shading, you're trying ellipses here. I've got information here, I've got information here, I've got information here, and now I've got information here as well. And you just gradually learn from everything you've done before. So if my hat is 3/4, it could probably be the same width. We could cheat a bit, and you know that the bottom of the hat goes here, so you could do just something like that. Okay, so my hat could be like that. Notice I'm changing this character a little bit. I'm just making it a little bit thinner. The front of the forehead, there's a gap here, but there's no gap here. So I think the front of the forehead hangs over the head, and I think it's a bit more prominent one side but not the other. Okay, so it's something like that where there's a bit of a gap there. Alright, now the eyes would swing across this side. They would swing this way. They'd probably be a bit closer together. Alright, so it'd be something like that. And the chin as well, looks like there's a gap over here. So let's get the chin with a gap here. And let's throw the chin out as well. So the 3/4 view is something like that. Alright, now let's get the collar in there. So the collar would be out like that. And what we're seeing now is that the fin is behind the front view, but the fin is not hidden here. So you can see here that it's lined up with the top of the eyes and the top of the top of the eyes and the top of the collar. So let's do that. It wouldn't be as prominent as a side view, so let's do something like that. Okay, something like that. So we're changing things a little bit, but that's all part of this. Now yours would change just a tiny bit as well from your model and whatever else. Okay, so let's have a look at that. So this is our side view so far. Okay, so the teeth would probably swing around a little bit like that, and we could put a tooth in there. It's a nice little space in there. So that's our 3/4 view so far. Now legs. I did a nice little sort of hip here. So what we could do is we could swing those legs forwards, but just for simplicity, I might slightly change it. That could be one leg and that could be another. What I do is, oh look, we'll keep them about the same, nice and simple. Alright, it's that. It could be something like that. And just in terms of this overlap we were talking about, you could just make that go like that and then sit that behind, and straight away you've got something fairly simple there. Okay, now with a 3/4 view we can do lots of things about putting feet on the ground and everything, but normally what I do is I just put both feet on this here. Now I am simplifying this character just for the purposes of this, but what we could do now is we could just do some simple feet. I might just do some simple feet there. Okay, and I might swing the back of the foot back, but we'll do that in the black. Line up, and I'm doing a little bit of an ellipse there. Alright, and I can get some hips and the bottom in there and all that sort of stuff, but basically let's just keep it simple. So that isn't too bad. Alright, so we're really just mapping things out. Okay, so there you go. Alright, pants lining up. Alright, and arm, as I said, it's not in the middle and it's not in the side, it's in the 3/4, so your arm is probably there. So I might do the arm. Now the arm is a little tricky because what I'm suggesting is that this is a certain width, so that would be smaller, but also the arm is going to overlap this a bit. Okay, so that's why sometimes we just pull arms off so that we can see the legs and stuff, but we'll give it a shot here. I would say you could probably cheat a bit like that. The thumb is going to be smaller because it's going to be at the side a bit. Alright, so you could probably, and the arm might be thicker, you could play around with that, but let's try a few things out. So your arm could be something like that, okay? And as I said, you can take the arm off or whatever, but something like that anyway. Alright, so we're lining up the top and the bottom of the arm. We're seeing less of the thumb. Something like that. Okay. Alright. So that is our 3/4 view, or near enough. Alright, now, as I said, it's a bit of overlap on that leg, and it would be nice to just have the rest of that body in there, but that's okay. So let's clean that up. I'll put another... Okay. Pose to black. I might just do the rest in one layer, but let's have a look. Okay, let's clean this up. So that is a reasonable 3/4 view. It's a little different than what we had here before, but as I said, I'm simplifying some things as well. Alright, so we're doing the hat. You could do the same shape, which means it's the same all the way around. The little peak here spins sideways. The forehead is sticking out one side, okay, with an empty bit here, and I'm constantly lining things up over here. Okay, so there's the chin. Okay, there's a nice little spot for the tooth. That tooth could stay that far from the edge. It would probably do different things, but it's a nice little area to put it in there. Alright, there's one eye. They're a little closer together because you're seeing them from the side. There's another eye, and there's that. Okay, so you can see it spinning around a bit. The other side, I don't think I'll worry about that cut out of the back. Just nice and simple to start with. Okay, there's our collar. It's lining up. Just make sure you're constantly lining these things up. Okay, and here is our body. Now, we talked about overlap, so let's get the overlap happening. And I might just swing, based on my research, say I'm looking at legs or something like that, I might just give a little bit of curve in there, but I'm not going to do too much. As I said, we're just going to do something fairly simple. And this line here is some overlap. Okay, I could leave that open as well. So overlap here, and I could do a bit of overlap there. Okay, so there you go. Could do overlap there, could do overlap there, and alright, in fact, no, don't like the overlap. That's better. Yep. Alright. There you go, and then I could shade that or whatever. This arm here, let's do this arm out. I'm lining things up here. Okay, And don't forget, your arm is not in the middle or at the side, it's about halfway there. Alright, and okay, so our arm would sit somewhere there, and the thumb would be a little less sticking out, and your hand might be a bit wider because you're seeing it from the side. But generally, so that would be the circle there. Alright, so you might want to do a shoulder or something, but something like that. So that is our 3/4 view. Okay, obviously, you know, you could clean it up and you could make things a little neater, etc., etc., but generally that's what we're looking at. Okay, so one arm sits about there, one arm sits about there in the back. Alright, so fairly simple, and we could play around with it, but that is our 3/4 view. Okay, something like that. Alright, let's get the fin in. Okay, so there you go. Alright, and then we will try a side view, which should be interesting. Alright. Okay, so let's do a side view and just finish this off. These are very, very simplified images, of course, and we're just talking about overlap and different bits and pieces like that. I'm doing a couple of layers here to help you out. You can do that on paper or not, if you've got a little light table or something. I've added a couple of layers here just for our third pose. Using layers is really useful, and I'm using blue and the black, of course. So let's do a side view. Alright. Incidentally, another really nice thing that you can do, which I wasn't saying before, is just do a little line down the center of each character. Okay, so you can see already, alright, without that line, see how this is shifted a little bit over there. Okay, so the center, that's not actually very balanced. Let's try this one. That's a little better. Okay, so you can see that I was looking at the screen to the side, so that could be balanced a bit more. Alright, so that's what I didn't do. So you can see that, yeah. So you can see, even though these are rough, this could be a lot balanced, so a lot more balanced. Okay, so you know, that should really go right through the center of your character. So let's try and get this right on the third. Okay, so yes, do lines across, but a line down the center of each of your poses is really good too. So not good. Alright, so let's get that hat the same. Well, let's do the shape of the thing first. Alright, that's the bottom, that's the top. So I'm cheating a bit, and I'm just making the shape of this fairly uniform. But what you could do, see already that line down the center is helping a lot. You could, to make it more interesting, this could be your front view, this could be your side view. So, you know, there could be differences in thickness here, and that's part of the charm of your character. Okay, so yeah, so please remember that. I should have done that, and you can see already I've done this a long time. You can see already without a center line and the screen just slightly twisted on me, you can see that I haven't really done a character that's very balanced there. So there you go. Alright, let's try a side view. So the hat, I'll do the same. Alright, because that's going to give us some uniformity here. And the peak obviously would be even further around. Alright, this I think might not be further forward or anything. Maybe this line would be further this way, but I think probably just a bit more of a gap here. I think the chin we could probably cheat and just have it the same, but let's see what it looks like. And certainly the eyes, you've only got one eye here now. Alright, so let's twist that around and have the gaps here be bigger. So that's your eyeball. Alright, that's your chin. That's your chin and everything else, and we've only got one. And just the same as we were doing ellipses, so you know, ellipses that get bigger, all right, this fin would be fuller. All right, so from the side, let's exaggerate that a bit. From the side now, that fin would be bigger if we're looking from the side. And ideally, they're not lined up at all, but ideally you would have lines across here to line them up. That's not great, but that's all right. Now, the biggest thing is, of course, our arm is here, and our legs are here. Okay, so legs are on the side, legs have more overlap, legs are now smack bang in the middle. We could probably do something a bit more interesting with those legs, but essentially you could do something like that. Now, because they line up each side like this, we could do some really good things like, we could do a butt or something like that. We might do that. And the arms are going to be in the way of the foot. So what I can do is, let's have a bit of a back knee there. And it's kind of nice to throw the leg back a little bit for balance. So we could do something like that. All right. And then we could get a knee in there as well. All right. We could do something like that. We could give a bit of a tummy here that you only see from the side. If we're going a bit sort of square about this, how about we do a knee and we do a curve up to that. Just remember, this is memory, but you could use reference, okay? Maybe we just do something like that. All right, so just from the side it looks a little bit different, but we're just doing a little bit of a knee, we're doing this, but you could hint at, and this is where you do your lines, okay? You could hint at a knee there, and that could have come out a little bit. You could hint at a knee here. You could do all sorts of stuff like that. So you could go backwards and forwards or whatever, but yeah, let's do a bit of a hint there. But so really that's just to show you that you could do other things. Otherwise, like I said, you could do the whole this, and from the side you could really quite easily just do that. All right, so that's just the very, very simple way of doing it. And then you could just do your that bit, of course. Okay, so but you could do some things like that. All right, anyway, in fact I might just, let's do that. That's nice and simple. Alright, so we've got some nice shapes there. Okay, so that's our side view, and with the arms, how are we doing the arms? Now this is going to be a bit tricky because really the top of this arm is a circle. Alright, now we've got the elbow there. If you see an arm like that from the front, it's really just a circle. So really the circle bit here, or the ellipse we've got in here, alright, is a little lower. So really that arm comes out a bit. Alright, so that is where the body is and that is where the elbow is. So really it is something like that. Alright, I don't want to complicate too many things, but let's just, I'm just trying to find a nice space for things as well. Okay. Oh, look, something like that. That'll be fine. Alright, let's have a look at the black version of that and we'll wrap this up. So, there's the hat. Oh, there's the peak. Maybe the peak gets longer at the front. There's our forehead. Okay, and our eye, we just have one of them now, and it could be thinner, just like we talked about this ellipse here. Okay. There is our tooth. Now, let's work out how we want to do this. I might just swing it back a bit. Let's swing it back a bit. Even something like that would be alright. That's alright. Probably cheating a little bit there, but that's alright. As long as the bottom, we're probably not going down as much as we should. And I've swung the arm forward a bit, but you can see there that that's the bottom half, that's the top half. Alright, so something like that's alright. Let's do a big sweeping sort of thing there. And I've changed a few things in there. Hopefully that's not too confusing. As I said, we're just trying to make the side a tiny bit more interesting. But you would learn about, you know, what the bottom looks like or whatever else based on the reference that you've got. Okay, so I'm not completely making things up, but you would look at reference there. Okay, done it again. I've forgotten the collar. That's fine. That can sit under there a little bit. Alright, and let's do a nice big fin. And then we should be fine. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's our side view. Okay, so something like that. I'm a little bit, so you can see that I'm out a little bit on my lines. So you need to keep checking that. But we're not too bad there. So there you go. Hopefully that has helped. Alright, you have front view, you have 3/4 views, you have side view, and you can see already that because I didn't do that center line, even with all my experience, the top is fine, but the bottom, see how far it's swung out. Okay, so hopefully that will help you folks. That's how to do turnarounds. You think about ellipses, you think about overlap. Okay, you think about where things are positioned and the space between things. Let's just finish this off with something that's quite nice to do. You could even, and this is the beauty of doing layers as well. Alright, you could get rid of the blues if you wanted to. Let's put another image down here, and we're just finish this off with some shading, which is really, really simple to do. Spell right. Even fairly roughly. So let's just pick something. If you do really, really faint shading, it's really nice to ground your characters. So let's pull this up, and we'll finish this off with quite literally a shadow. Let's do that a little better. Quite literally, just a really simple shadow is often nice to do. This is the worst shadow, but you can see even really roughly like that with a great big horrible big paintbrush, you can see that it's grounded quite a lot. Yeah, that really isn't great, and it probably is a bit dark, so let's lighten it off a bit. We'll leave those in, but with the lighter color, this is what I do as well. Just so for example, you know, backgrounds. Now this is probably a little bit dark, as I said, but you can see already, obviously with a bit more nuance than that, you can see already, but something thrown in the background like that actually works quite well. Alright, you could try shadow, you could try just little things that are under there. Certainly under here is kind of nice. But you can see straight away, and just really, really quickly, you can add lots of little things here. Alright, little bits of shadow and stuff. Alright, so just to finish off, there you go. So, nice and quickly, there are our turnarounds. Okay, we are, oh, where have we done this? Alright, and leaving lines in is kind of nice if it's not too in your face. So there we go. We've talked about overlap, ellipses, all the rest of the stuff. I've done some very quick shading at the end, and taken a few liberties with the side view based on some reference that you might have. Things are lining up relatively well. Don't forget the lines down. Okay, as you can see, I was already unbalanced, but generally that is how you do your turnaround poses, folks.